Good afternoon to all who has been joined to this event tonight. That is a presentation of the documentary Bolivia Burning and Ecocide from the Gecko Project. We're going to have with us David Hill and Alvaro Bozo. And we are going to proceed basically with a short introduction. Then we're going to show the documentary for you to watch it. And after the documentary, David and Alvaro are going to make their comments, and we're going then to a Q&A session. And as I always remembered you can use the Q&A button to send your questions or raise your hand, and I will give you the mic for you to speak, so we have some dialogue around. With that introductions, I want to give now the platform to Winston, our chairman. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening or good afternoon, depending where you are. I would like to just make a very brief introduction to Bolivia Burning inside the Latin American Ecocide. This is a Gecko Project, the Gecko Project documentary covering the rapid destruction of Bolivia's forests in 2024. Bolivia lost 1.5 million hectares of more forest lands lost than any other country, save Brazil. And fires were spiraling out of control, turning a large part of Bolivia into an inferno. The region most affected by deforestation and fires is the Chiquitania dry forest. And the key players in the destruction of this process are the ultra-conservative Mennonite communities, fleeing modernization drive of civilization by setting up colonies in remote forest areas, and Cargill, a global agribusiness conglomerate reportedly controlled, focused on ending deforestation, it has its headquarters in Minneapolis, Minnesota, located between South Dakota and Wisconsin. There are reports on how it's seeking reinventing its operations to build a more resilient food system. There are references in its report, in its website, to food security and climate reliance are deeply connected, and real progress requires, engaging. The thing is that there's concern that an incoming government, for example, may introduce legislation to parcel out community lands, as occurred during the urban reform in the early 1950s, when communities seeking to, at this moment in time, to reunite and secure land titles for ancestral territories in the Chiquitania in order to prevent fire deforestation, as explained in the film by the indigenous Mokosi leader. I think it's important to just bear in mind that the Gecko Project is a non-profit media group investigating the sole land use and to address issues like climate change, deforestation, biodiversity loss, for food security, and the rights of marginalized communities. It seeks to stimulate change through storytelling and investigative journalism to protect the environment and advocate human rights. It's important to mention that today, the Fundación Cultural del Banco Central de Bolivia, there was a report that the Museum of Fernando Montes presented today a book called Las Llaves del Cielo, which is written by a journalist called Mauricio Carrasco, which reports cases of sexual violence, systematic sexual violence in the Mennonite communities. And this is a topic that has remained in silence for a long time, as has the burning of the forests. So it's an issue connected with the Mennonite communities. There are a series of issues concerning the Mennonite communities and the relationship with Cargill. I'd now like to hand over to the presentation.
fires in Bolivia have burned through more than 10 million hectares this year.
La verdad que
This has been Bolivia's worst ever fire season.
La voracidad de las llamas se debe a varios factores, principalmente climáticos. No ha llovido en varios meses y extensas zonas de bosque tropical han sido deforestadas para uso agropecuario.
La marcha de los indígenas chiquitanos partió hace 5 días y están recorriendo más de 45 kilómetros en la zona este hasta llegar al centro histórico de Santa Cruz. Pretenden realizar una manifestación pública en contra de los incendios forestales.
En nuestros territorios ancestrales mandamos nosotros. Vamos a hacer prevalecer lo que nos ha dejado nuestros ancestros, que es nuestra tierra, nuestro territorio, Oriente, Chaco y Amazonía.
We heard on the news this morning that there's been this protest. People from San Jose de Chiquitos, which is to the east of Santa Cruz, have been marching through Santa Cruz today in regard to the fires that are happening out in the Chiquitano and the impacts that they've been having on their communities. And so we were told they were heading in this direction, and we've come to see if we can speak to someone.
This is them.
How do you know?
I know.
Y estamos sufriendo, en toda la región se sufre, primeramente por el humo. Hay niños, mujeres embarazadas que están sufriendo y lo están trayendo aquí a Santa Cruz en ambulancia, en avioneta, porque no, es insostenible. Mire, aquí en la ciudad nomás como ya se ve el humo.
¿Hay atención entonces?
Atención médica es muy poca, muy poca. Apartando de eso, los animalitos, todos quemados, achicharrados, escapando hacia el camino, haciendo atropellados también porque...
Es una tragedia todo esto que está pasando. ¿Qué se puede hacer? ¿Qué se tiene que hacer?
Le pedimos al gobierno que no se escape, que se quede a resolver nuestros problemas. El gobierno ha causado problemas, el gobierno tiene que sacarnos de este problema.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias a ustedes.
We've come to Santa Cruz, right at the heart of Bolivia's agribusiness boom. Vast amounts of soy and beef are being produced here, much of it for export markets. But that has come at an immense cost. Over the last few years, Bolivia has been losing more tropical forests than almost any other country in the world. And many Bolivians are linking that to government policies promoting agribusiness. We came here to investigate what's been happening, to see who's profiting from all this deforestation, and to explore the role of an intriguing, ultra-conservative Christian denomination, the Mennonites, that has been establishing remote colonies extending for more than 1 million hectares of the country, and reportedly playing a major role in devastating Bolivia's forests. What we found on arrival is a country on fire.
Del año 2019 a la fecha hemos sufrido durísimos embates con el tema de los incendios. Venimos siendo azotados año a año.
No pudimos con la naturaleza. Lástima.
La situación actual es la peor de los últimos tiempos. Esto se debe a una política ecocida que viene practicando y promoviendo el gobierno.
La catástrofe de los incendios y sus serias consecuencias se podrían haber evitado.
Luisa Nayar Sosa is an opposition politician from the Comunidad Ciudadana Alliance.
She has been one of the most outspoken public figures about the fires.
He visto comunarios con lágrimas en los ojos, testimonios realmente desgarradores. Han perdido todo, han perdido sus casas, han perdido sus animalitos, han perdido sus tierras, han perdido absolutamente todo. Cuando ustedes se trasladen en estos próximos días van a ver con sus propios ojos la cruda realidad que atravesamos en nuestro país.
In their office in a quiet district of Santa Cruz, we've come to meet the conservation organization FCBC. They've been analyzing the spread of the fires as they occur in real time, using data published by NASA.
Un gusto, David. Un gusto, David. ¿Muy bien?
Muchas gracias.
Explíquenos, ¿qué te muestra ese mapa?
Bueno, lo que ahora estamos nosotros monitoreando es los incendios a nivel nacional y específicamente a nivel departamental.
Ya. Entonces, ¿cuántas hectáreas han sido afectadas?
Y ya en el territorio nacional, en todo el país, se han afectado alrededor de 10.125 millones de hectáreas, ¿no? Y solamente en el departamento de Santa Cruz es donde se concentra la mayor cantidad de afectación en áreas quemadas. En cifras tenemos 6.916.000 hectáreas y todo eso se distribuye en las tierras bajas de Bolivia, donde está concentrado la mayor cantidad de bosque, ¿no? Amazónico, el chaqueño y el chiquitano, ¿no? Ahí está ubicado todos los incendios, ¿no? A comparación del 2019 hemos duplicado, pero son nuevas áreas que han ido quemándose durante este año, ¿no?
The worst heat region isn't the Amazon, the rainforest, but a tropical dry forest called the Chiquitano. It's huge, extending for millions of hectares across eastern Bolivia. It's one of the biggest tropical dry forests in the world. 300 kilometers northeast of Santa Cruz, out in the Chiquitano, is San Ignacio, one of the areas most affected by the fires. We've come here to speak to medical professionals about the impacts on people's health.
Doctor, permiso. Buenos.
¿Cómo está? Buen día. Han sido muy altos en el tema salud. Actualmente estamos atendiendo más de 700 infecciones respiratorias. Hace más o menos un mes atrás nos quedamos sin espacio en pediatría y aquí en medicina teníamos lleno, o sea, las dos salas estaban totalmente llenas con pacientes. Las enfermedades que más se nos han subido estadísticamente son las infecciones respiratorias, las diarreas, las conjuntivitis.
¿Cuál es el más grave?
El más grave son las infecciones respiratorias.
¿Pero hay algún caso en específico que tal vez nos
la
pueda
neumonía.
comentar? Neumonías.
Las neumonías, sí.
Well, now we're going to speak to a nurse. He's from Santana de Velasco. This is where the fire started. It's one of the most affected areas. Licenciado, ¿cómo está? Buenas tardes. Buenos días. ¿Su nombre es?
Wilmar Cristian González.
Vamos a darnos una vueltita para que podamos charlar. ¿Cuándo ha llegado acá?
Hace exactamente una semana más o menos que estamos por acá entregando ya los informes de lo que ha pasado, de la catástrofe, ¿no?, ambiental que hemos atravesado.
¿Por qué dices catástrofe?
Porque se ha destruido todos los bosques.
¿Todos los bosques que están alrededor de Santana de Velasco?
Sí, estamos hablando de unas 40.000 a 50.000 hectáreas de bosques vírgenes que se han destruido completamente.
Contame, ¿cómo ha sido el incendio para ustedes? ¿Qué es lo que ha pasado?
Que nunca en mi vida había visto un incendio de esa magnitud que destruya todo a su paso. Quemaba animales muertos después que pasaba el incendio por cada comunidad que atravesaba. Son 4 comunidades que han sido totalmente devastadas por el fuego. La gente lo ha perdido totalmente todo. No sabíamos a quién atender primero. No tenemos transporte. Seguimos luchando para conseguir una ambulancia, pero hasta ahora no nos pueden dar, ¿no? 19 de agosto del 2024, 3 de la tarde. Seguimos aquí grabando con lo que se puede. Los animales quemados, corriendo por de aquí para allá. Uy. El fuego continúa y este es un desastre ya. Totalmente es un desastre. Asistiendo a los niños con infecciones respiratorias.
Sí, tranquilo, tranquilo. ¿Te cuesta todavía?
Cuesta, porque yo lo viví. Hasta ahora a mí me cuesta poder hablar de este tema porque ver llamas de 100 metros sobre tu cabeza, dando asistencia a los bomberos, a los militares. Nuestro mismo gobierno vio cómo se quemaba todo, vio cómo se consumía todo y dudaban de nuestros propios videos que nosotros mandamos. Entonces empezamos a mandar videos ya con hora, fecha y lugar. Hora, fecha y lugar, no importa la hora, eran las 3, 2 de la mañana, igual estábamos ahí.
Vocecito del Sarí, 21 de agosto del 2024, son exactamente las 9:30 y sigue ardiendo el fuego. El fuego está avanzando ya hacia dirección del pueblo de Santana de Velasco. Es mucha gente la que está sufriendo. Son varios distritos que ya están consumidos totalmente por el fuego. Una comunidad completa ya fue extinguida. Entonces lo han perdido todo y ver esa realidad es lo que más duele.
Me has hecho llorar. Te agradezco, hermano. Somos comunidad.
Señor Luis Arce Catacora, presidente. Nos declaramos en emergencia.
Just a few days before we arrived, 130 Bolivian organizations and groups wrote to the president about the fires. They argued that the root cause is government policies promoting agribusiness.
Las causas de los incendios son varias. La antigua práctica del chaqueo, que alentaba por un paquete de leyes incendiarios, se ha institucionalizado como un mecanismo de ampliación de la frontera agrícola, favoreciendo a los capitales del agronegocio y a los grupos interculturales que apoyan al oficialismo.
Las restricciones y sanciones a esta práctica no se cumplen y campea la impunidad entre quienes provocan los incendios.
Caliente, caliente, caliente.
Además, se intensifica la prolongada sequía y los efectos del cambio climático. Las consecuencias de las quemas son devastadoras. La pérdida de biodiversidad es alarmante y pone en riesgo la supervivencia de la flora y fauna de los territorios afectados.
Las comunidades indígenas y rurales han visto sus medios de vida destruidos, incluyendo la pérdida de cultivos y la contaminación de sus fuentes de agua, poniendo en riesgo la supervivencia. La calidad del aire se ha deteriorado significativamente,
afectando la salud de miles de personas. La pérdida de bosque, estrechamente relacionada con la escasez y estrés hídrico que ya se tiene, afectará seriamente el acceso a agua en centros poblados y en especial la seguridad alimentaria.
¿A quién ha sido dirigida esta carta?
La carta está dirigida a 3 personas. Estamos hablando del presidente del Estado de Bolivia, Arce Catacora, el vicepresidente, que es además el presidente de la Asamblea Legislativa, y el presidente del Tribunal Supremo de Justicia, Marco Jay. El paquete de leyes incendiarias es un concepto que apareció más o menos en el 2019, cuando nos dimos cuenta por qué estaban ocurriendo los incendios y por qué había una obstaculización del gobierno nacional para impedir que se acaben los incendios. Y descubrimos que en los últimos 15 años o más, el gobierno había estado emitiendo leyes y decretos que no solamente incentivaban al uso del fuego, que eventualmente derivaba al acceso de nuevas tierras, que es la famosa ampliación de la frontera agrícola, sino que además permitía que los que quemaban, los criminales que estaban quemando, porque estaban infringiendo las leyes también existentes, ellos salgan libres impunemente.
El año 2013, el gobierno de ese momento aprobó algo que se llamó la Agenda Patriótica Bolivia 2025. ¿Qué planteaba esa agenda patriótica? Bolivia, un país exportador de granos y alimentos. Ese era el plan estratégico. para cumplir ese plan, se han bajado todas las regulaciones ambientales. No importa si son tierras forestales, si es tierra de... hasta en áreas de reservas están permitiendo desmonte.
Alcides pointed to data showing that state clearing permits never once exceeded 52,000 hectares a year between 2001 and 2013. But by 2018, the area permitted had increased fivefold to more than 250,000 hectares. Satellite analysis shows how this played out in practice, with a massive rise in deforestation. According to a report released last year by Bolivian NGO CEDLA, 16% of the deforestation in recent years happened in Mennonite colonies.
¿Puedes explicar un poco más sobre el rol de los menonitas en Tucumán?
Los menonitas son una población que en Santa Cruz son bien vistos por su nivel de trabajo y su honradez. Sin embargo, también sobre todo en los últimos tiempos, son muy criticados porque son demasiado depredadores. Es una población que tiene una forma de trabajo en la que no dejan un solo árbol. O sea, limpian con todo.
¿Y quién está haciendo los desmontes?
Mire, los desmontes lo hacen, pues, ¿no? Prácticamente el empresariado privado, lo hacen los menonitas también, y lo hacen los interculturales, las comunidades campesinas que vienen con su resolución y se asientan en estos terrenos que el gobierno se las cede, ¿no?
Carlos Alba Saucedo is the leader of a federation representing indigenous communities in the Chiquitano.
Las colonias menonitas tienen muchas tierras. Son muchos excedentes de lo que tenemos nosotros, ¿no? Las colonias menonitas vienen aquí y hacen un voraz de deforestación, siembran en cantidades, 2.000, 3.000 hectáreas tienen entre todas las colonias, siembran soya, sorgo, maíz, entonces es un impacto.
So, this map has been produced by the Mennonites themselves.
Yeah. And the Mennonites are this ultra-conservative Christian denomination who moved originally from Europe to the US and Canada and then into Mexico and other South American countries, Bolivia, Paraguay and Argentina.
Ellos van trasladándose de un país al otro buscando de apartarse del mundo y guardar su propia cultura y no mezclarse con el mundo.
As of 2013, there were apparently 75 colonies, and as of 2022, there was 124. So we're talking about a huge expansion.
Alcides from Fundación Tierra told us they play a pivotal role on deforestation as well.
Yeah, an outsized contribution to Bolivian deforestation. Something like 1/4 of all soy-related deforestation in the Bolivian Amazon over the last 20 years has happened in Mennonite colonies. What we've done is we've taken some of the info from this map, we've used a map made by academics and effectively created our own map here, which we've overlaid over Global Forest Watch data. And this is just from 2016, and it's over 250,000 hectares in the colonies themselves, almost 300,000 hectares.
We should visit them, definitely.
Well, I think we should visit, why don't we visit one of the oldest colonies, try and see where it all started.
Okay.
One of those founded in the 50s or 60s.
I think that sounds reasonable.
We're heading out to one of the oldest Mennonite colonies in Bolivia called Swift Current. It was founded back in the 60s. And we're going to go there and hopefully meet and speak to some Mennonites. So the colonies don't tend to have a center as such, but are divided up between these different campos, as they call them.
Swift Current is vast, almost 200 square kilometers. First impressions are striking. The roads running dead straight, the houses austere, the gardens immaculate with neatly trimmed lawns. The Mennonites here get around in horse-drawn carriages they call buggies. This is a simple life. There's no technology, no cars, no TV, no internet, no smartphones. We spoke to a father and son who didn't want to be interviewed on camera, and they told us about the restrictive rules governing the colony.
He says that nowadays there's people smuggling mobile phones, but once they get caught, they have to ask for forgiveness from the ministry, and in front of everyone they have to say, "We are very sorry, we're not gonna do it again."
We're coming in now into Campo 97, looking for Johan Peters, and we're looking for his house, which we think is about another 12 kilometers into the colony along these tracks.
¿Y la colonia cuántos años tiene?
Tiene 67.
¿A ustedes no han tenido que hacer desmonte, desboscar, nada?
No, eso los padres han hecho.
Ya los padres ya
los que han llegado de México.
Ok. ¿Sus papás han venido desde México?
Sí.
¿Desde cuál colonia en México? ¿O de qué ciudad?
De Swift Current.
De Swift Current también, Swift Current.
Por eso lo copiaron aquí igual nomás.
Muy bien.
¿Por qué han llegado aquí tus papás, este sitio específico?
No sé hoy cómo será, cómo lo hallaron, ¿no? Al llegar acá, pero como ya ellos ya no están y no me han dejado la historia cómo han podido llegar acá, ¿no? Pero hay alguna gente que han llegado de México acá, hay todavía.
Hay todavía.
Hay todavía.
¿Qué fue la razón de salir de México hace más o menos 60 años?
Es que le ha faltado el espacio. Siempre una colonia que una vez que ya se llena, que no hay campo para las familias así, y ya van buscando a otra colonia, ¿no? Algunos fueron a Paraguay, algunos fueron a Argentina, algunos llegaron a Bolivia, algunos fueron a Brasil, gente que va a Angola.
Angola también.
Igual ya
ahora.
hay algunos ya que están en eso.
Pero dentro de Bolivia, ¿sí hay tierras aptas para los menonitas para crear nuevas colonias?
Hay.
Sí hay.
Hemos comprado una propiedad el año pasado.
¿Dónde la han comprado?
Allá en San Ignacio de ir a San Matías.
¿Cómo se llama?
Nuestra colonia se llama allá Bella Italia.
¿Cómo? Bella Italia.
Bella Italia.
Bella Italia. ¿Y tiene su título de propiedad?
Tiene. La tierra está en nuestro nombre ahorita. Todo.
¿Y cuántas familias más o menos van a vivir allá?
Van a ir varios, no van todos juntos, ¿no? Pero son varios que van a ir a vivir.
¿Y ahí es monte?
Monte.
Monte. Hay que limpiar el bosque.
Sí. Estaba con reservas forestales, estaba con plan de manejo. Y así era puro monte. Ahorita hemos hecho el uso de cambio. Y ahorita ya estamos trabajando ya. Ya hemos desmontado unas cuantas hectáreas y nos pasó el incendio también, el fuego.
¿Y cuándo les ha pasado el incendio?
Hace 2 semanas que se quemó todo.
¿Y qué les ha pasado a las familias que estaban ahí?
No ha pasado nada.
Han podido salir
sí.
a tiempo. ¿La religión dice tienes que trabajar la tierra?
Claro.
¿Cómo lo dice?
En la Biblia siempre dice, ¿no? Cada uno tiene que trabajar, tiene que sudar de frente para ganar su pan del día, ¿no? Eso es lo que estamos haciendo.
Muy bien. Entonces siempre hay una razón de buscar más tierra para cultivar.
Claro, como para nuestros hijos, ¿no? Tenemos que buscar otra propiedad para hacer otra colonia, para que haga espacio para los hijos, para que puedan seguir trabajando lo mismo que nosotros.
Claro que sí.
¿Y dónde está Bella
Y todo
Italia?
Bella Italia está por aquí. Y está por aquí.
Por ahí.
Sí.
Wow.
Aquí es otra, ese de San Luis se llama.
Y ellos, mira, aquí es la frontera con Brasil, entonces, sí. ¿Tú crees que ellos van a vender su soya hacia Brasil o en Bolivia?
Hasta ahora lo están llegando a Puerto Híjaro, lo están llevando ahorita la soya de allá.
They've just started a brand new colony deeper into Santa Cruz, near the Brazilian border, called Bahia Italia. And he spoke about that at some length, right? He said that they bought 10,000 hectares and they're looking to grow soya, sorghum and maize, the same sorts of things that Mennonites have been growing in other colonies.
And it's also important to point out what has been happening so far, how they've been setting up the colony.
I think we should go there. I think that he gave the impression it might be difficult for us to actually get there physically because of the fires and the roads in not being, being new and also having bits of trees and things falling on them. So it could be hard, but I think we should see if we can go there.
We're going to be traveling through the heart of the Chiquitano.
It's been on fire.
It's been on fire, literally.
Just miles and miles, isn't it, of burned forest. As far as we've been driving for 2 hours now, and left and right of us, it's just everything's been burnt off.
As soon as we left San Rafael, it's been constantly burned.
It seems to be getting worse as well. The deeper we get in, the closer we get to Brazil. Let's stop, let's have a look.
I think he just passed by and destroyed everything on his path.
I'm going to take a GPS point, okay?
Bleak, very bleak.
The whole of the Chiquitano is a cemetery. We've just picked up a truck driver that got stuck in the middle of the road. He was mentioning that it's both ranchers, campesinos, and Mennonites that starts the fire. This is it. Propiedad Cotoca, Bella Italia.
Propiedad Bella Italia.
This has been clear recently. Buenos días. This is exactly what they use to push the trees down. You can see it's been working. This is the diesel they use. This is how they pile up all the material. The drinks are here still. The tools are here. They haven't left long ago. This is very, very recently, maybe today even. You can see the big investment this requires. You have a big topadora here, the Komatsu topadora, maybe of 100K new. You have a big tank of diesel, the container, the water, generator, and all the equipment that they have here. It's not cheap, and someone has to bankroll all of these investments. They clear the forest, they pile it up in the middle, they burn it, and they have a clear field. They leave all these trees on the sides.
This is quite a different atmosphere, isn't it, from Swift Current?
Startling.
It's hard to imagine that the idea is that this will become like Swift Current.
By the end of the year, at the rate these guys are going, this could be a well-established colony.
I think it's a car coming. Hold on.
Maybe we should go and talk to them.
Let's go and have a look, Buen día.
Hemos estado en Swift Current.
Más importante es por qué vinieron acá.
Se estaba llenando la colonia allá, no había campo. Y por eso se decidieron comprar esa tierra aquí.
Ya. Y la idea es cultivar algunos cultivos, ¿cómo era?
Soya, maíz, sorgo, maní, todo eso.
¿Para su autosubsistencia o no?
Para vender.
Y bueno, aquí es muy lejos y entonces los camiones pueden llegar aquí para recoger.
Pueden llegar y van a llevarlo a Santa Cruz o la frontera.
Cuando llegaron aquí, ¿cómo era? Era
bonito, verde, bien húmedo.
Bien húmedo.
Sí.
¿Todo monte?
Todo monte.
Ya. Y tenían que limpiar un poco.
Teníamos que limpiar, teníamos que hacer brecha y así entramos.
Y eso es trabajo muy duro, me imagino.
Duro.
Hay nuevas colonias, ¿no? Y hay otras colonias relativamente cerca. ¿Tú sabes, esas colonias están produciendo soya, ¿tú sabes a quiénes le venden?
No le podía decir, porque todos los que están aquí ahorita, alrededor, todos son nuevos ahorita.
Todos. No están produciendo.
No han producido nada.
No han tenido una cosecha.
¿Cómo eran los incendios para ustedes aquí? ¿Tenían que salir algunos?
No he salido, pero han tenido que salir y hemos trabajado duro con la máquina.
¿Y sabes de dónde venían los incendios? Es decir, ¿quién está haciendo el fuego?
Del frente, al lado del norte, el otro lado de la carretera, ahí apareció el fuego y se vino con el viento, no se podía hacer nada.
¿Y ahí es una hacienda, una estancia?
Una estancia de ganadería.
De ganadería, ¿no?
Sí. Sí, aquí lo tenemos, la máquina para desmontar y la caseta para vivir, mientras que no hay otra forma.
¿Con esto desmontas?
Sí.
¿No? Con esto se ataca el árbol.
Sí, es.
¿No? Y con esto se limpia el piso.
Sí.
Ya. ¿Y cuánto me has dicho que costaba, perdón, última vez?
De $3,000 a $40,000, $30,000, $40,000.
Ya.
Dependiendo la estado. Lo que...
Y solamente 6 familias aquí.
Por el momento ahorita sí.
Ya. ¿Y otros van a llegar en este año?
No. Más adelante, ¿no?
Ya, cuando hay más bosque limpiado. Entonces, ¿hay algunas casas ya construidas? ¿O?
Por ejemplo, así nomás están viviendo ahorita la gente, así en esa casa.
¿Así nomás? ¿Y tú?
Yo igual vivo más adelante.
Ah, ok.
¿Qué animales hay?
Los guasos, chancho.
Chancho de monte, hochi.
Hochi hay. Hasta tigres encontramos ya.
Wow, y en este lugar. ¿Y ahora para dónde se habrán ido los tigres?
¿Por dónde será? Da pena decir los animales. Tanto que se han
muerto,
se quemaron algunos.
Muchos, ¿no?
So when they get going in Bella Italia, the impact on the forest is going to be huge, isn't it?
Yeah, they'll probably be clearing thousands and thousands of hectares.
And look, the satellite imagery we've been looking at and the map made by the Mennonites themselves, it seems that Bella Italia is just one of several colonies in that area.
two of which aren't even on that map, and all of which are cutting down lots more forest.
Which by it looks that the frontier is effectively expanding. I mean, this is the clearest example we have so far of how the agriculture frontier in Bolivia is getting bigger and bigger and into the forest.
This is the far east of Santa Cruz, right? Very close to Brazil.
I mean, look, it's just, I think it's less than 50 kilometers from Brazil, I would say.
To be clearing this amount of forest and to be hoping to grow this much soy, they're only doing it on this scale because someone's going to be buying it, right?
Yeah, someone's going to be making big profits.
It's industrial scale, and that means investment, big investment.
Well, I think the question now is who's buying or who will be buying all this soy?
Well, we've got to go to other colonies that have been growing and selling soy for years to better understand that.
Soy is far and away Bolivia's most widely grown crop, with many of the exports initially going to other Latin American countries. Among the biggest buyers is US company Cargill. According to an expose by NGO Global Witness, Cargill has been sourcing soy from Mennonite colonies in the Chiquitano that have cleared thousands and thousands of hectares of forest in the recent years. We've come to one of those colonies to see if Cargill is still buying from them.
This is Hacienda Verde. This is a more modern colony, isn't it, than what we've been to before. We're hoping to speak to 2 or 3 Mennonites about how they farm and the soy business. It's quite obvious that it's a modern colony because there are cars parked outside people's houses. You can see motorbikes. We haven't seen a buggy yet. We've been driving for 5 or 10 minutes or so and there are no buggies.
One of the people we've been recommended to speak to about the soy trade is David Rempel. We find him in his front garden along one of the colony's main roads.
Caballero, buen día. ¿Cómo está? Buenos días. Antes eras conservador.
Sí.
Sí, y ahora te has vuelto menos moderno.
Moderno, sí.
Sí, muy bien.
¿Qué implica? ¿Qué significa?
O sea, claro que la religión antigua, su religión es muy cerrada, pues no dejan salir a trabajar con los bolivianos. Es ahí nomás pues en la colonia.
La colonia en realidad es una colonia nueva, ¿no?
Sí, es nueva. Creo que va a ser unos 10 años, será, ¿no? Desde que empezaron el primer desmonte.
Recién.
Sí.
¿Y cuando llegaron, cómo era?
Esto acá era una propiedad vieja, una propiedad ganadera. Y después empezaron ya a hacer los desmontes.
¿Tú has tenido que hacer desmontes?
Sí, yo he hecho los desmontes también, mi chaco, yo lo mismo lo desmonté. Yo tenía mi máquina propia y...
Oruga.
Sí, y he desmontado también, ¿no? Para otros.
¿Y tú sabes si la empresa Cargill, has escuchado?
Sí, conozco.
Sí. ¿Ellos compran de acá?
Algunos productos.
Soya.
Sí.
El año pasado, ¿no?
El año pasado le entregamos a ellos también, ¿no? Estábamos entregando en Cargill y también en grano.
¿Tienes tus boletas?
La tengo.
¿Puedes mostrarnos la de Cargill?
Tengo algunas boletas creo que en el teléfono. Esto es de la última cosecha.
¿Y esa era de Cargill?
Sí.
A ver, ¿puedo ver?
Esto se ve. Ah, no, está completa también.
Cargill. Cargill Silo 3 Cruces.
¿Qué fecha?
2024, 7-2024. Sunflower
Ellos...
Ah, esto es Girasol.
¿Este de distribuidor o jefe?
El distribuidor... O sea, tenemos una cooperativa acá nosotros, allá en La Balanza. Sí, ahí en la oficina debe estar.
Yeah, let's go there.
David not only confirmed that Cargill has recently bought soy from the colony, but he also said they've been buying other products too, including sunflower seed.
This is the scales, right? This is where the lorries will come and drive onto the scales and weigh how much soy they're taking out. Hola. Hola. Ustedes siempre buscan tierra donde hay monte, ¿no?
Había el monte, sí.
Donde había monte.
Sí, donde había el monte.
¿Y eso es por qué? Por ejemplo, podrían comprar tierras que ya han sido desmontados o prefieren el monte.
Sí, sí. Siempre la tierra es más buena si recién estamos desmontando porque tiene más vigor, no sé.
La tierra tiene más vigor.
Sí, más vigor y potasio, todo eso.
El camión viene aquí.
Sí, el camión viene acá, pasar por la balanza y noté los kilos y él se fue a silo a vender.
Pero
Sí.
¿cómo sabes qué silo?
¿Qué silo? Hay varios silos donde vendemos. Sí. Por ejemplo, mayormente vendemos a Puerto Quijaro. Silo Cargill.
Cargill es uno de los más importantes para ustedes.
Ahí, sí.
¿Y esto ha sido por cuántos años más o menos? ¿Por todos los años?
Nah, yo recién 3 años que yo trabajo con eso y también con esa cooperativa. Y esos años vendemos siempre a Nutrioil y Cargill, sí. Y poco a Alicorp, es una empresa también, sí. Vendemos después, al fin, vendemos la grano a Cargill, sí.
According to satellite analysis we commissioned, between 2016 and 2024, more than 3,000 hectares of forest was cleared in Hacienda Verde alone. In other colonies linked by Global Witness to Cargill, those figures are even higher: 4,000, 5,000, and more than 7,000 hectares. Cargill is one of the most powerful players in the global food industry and has been accused of almost single-handedly derailing global efforts to end all soy-driven deforestation. We asked the company for an interview about Bolivia, but instead they replied with this statement.
Cargill is committed to transforming our agricultural supply chains to be free of deforestation by 2030.
They've said they'll be deforestation-free for soy by 2025 for the Amazon and the Chaco and the Cerrado in Brazil, but the Chiquitano they've forgotten about. Apparently it's the largest privately owned company in the US. It's one of the biggest exporters of Bolivian soy. We know that from trade data. Along with the Alicorp, this big Peruvian company, and it's been saying that it's been trying to eliminate deforestation from its supply chain for years and years, right?
Yeah, they are major and important and cannot be overlooked, their role in the deforestation of the forest in Bolivia, especially the Chiquitano.
So now they say 2030 effectively for the Chiquitano, but they're just kicking the can down the road, aren't they?
Yeah.
El bosque seco chiquitano geográficamente coincide también con lo que antes, o en su momento, era el Peadirú, que es un camino antiguo, camino mítico, que conectaba los dos océanos, el Atlántico y el Pacífico. Fue el primer camino transcontinental, incluso antes que llegaran los españoles. Por ahí transitaron pueblos principalmente guaraní en su momento, tupi-guaraní, y que en esa su búsqueda de lo que llamaban la tierra sin mal, fueron haciendo estas incursiones y de alguna manera sembrando, para ponerlo figurativamente hablando, sembrando pueblos, entre ellos los moncocs, o llamados chiquitanos, y que son quienes culturalmente habitan el bosque seco chiquitano.
Podría desaparecer como bosque seco chiquitano.
Y el bosque seco chiquitano como tal va a encontrar alguna ruta o forma de continuar. No perdamos de vista lo que puede implicar eso para las poblaciones humanas.
The final stop on our journey is San Antonio de Lomarillo, an indigenous community extending for about 250,000 hectares. Deep in the Chiquitano, San Antonio has managed to obtain legal title to its territory and kept much of its forests standing. We've come to meet Maria Choré, president of the Women's Federation.
Yeah, it's part of the Moncoche Nation. This is the indigenous federation for the nation.
No ha sido por una marcha, por bloqueos, bueno, por exigencia a que esto se pueda titular a nuestro favor.
Perdón, ¿ese fue un proceso de varios años?
Esto, por ejemplo, para que se titule territorio de Lomerío ha durado 10 años.
10 años desde
10
el proceso.
años el proceso de saneamiento.
Parece que los menonitas y otros los culturales obtienen su título mucho más rápido, ¿no? Que 10 años, por ejemplo.
Claro, porque para ellos no piensan, digamos, tenerlo como nosotros. Claro. La conservación, yo lo digo la conservación, porque ellos piensan de tener producción y tener la plata. En cambio nosotros los pueblos indígenas, siempre digo tal vez que eso venimos desde nuestros ancestros, de la conservación.
Despite preserving so much of their own forest, the Monkoshi is still being severely impacted by the fires and deforestation going on around them.
Por ejemplo, que si la semana pasada ha ingresado fuego, es el tema que hay personas enfermas de los pulmones y afecta, digamos, el tema del humo. También el tema del conjuntivitis, ¿no? Claro. Entonces, ahí donde estamos nosotros viendo que causa daño para nosotros, ¿no? Entonces también quiero decir públicamente a nivel del mundo de que nosotros como pueblos indígenas, como territorio de la nación Monkosh, nosotros preservamos y conservamos nuestro territorio.
On our journey, we've met people and communities devastated by the fires. We've seen the Chiquitano burned black and vast areas of forest being cleared to make way for new Mennonite colonies and grow soy and raise cattle. We've heard the stories of animals being driven from the forest and people suffering from drought too, as they wait desperately for the rains to come. Over a decade ago, Bolivia passed visionary legislation recognizing the rights of Mother Earth, winning praise not only at home but abroad.
The Mother Earth Law holds the land as sacred and defines it as a living system with rights to be protected from exploitation.
But those, for now at least, are just words, and words go to the wind. This, what we've been seeing, this is the reality.
Yo creo que hubo mucha romantización con el gobierno que llegó a decir que ellos eran los defensores de la madre tierra y adquirieron muchísima simpatía por muchas organizaciones alrededor del mundo, por muchos gobiernos alrededor del mundo que creían que ellos estaban haciéndolo de buena fe, por así decirlo, y que era real.
Tenemos la responsabilidad para cuidar la madre tierra, la Pachamama, porque lo que está pasando en el mundo es muy serio.
Pero desde el comienzo habían evidencias muy claras de que en realidad ellos estaban usándolo como una fachada. La evidencia ha sido tan clara que han violentado todas las leyes que ellos mismos como gobierno crearon. Entonces yo creo que es muy claro que al final no importa la narrativa que ellos digan si en la práctica vemos que hay una destrucción por parte del Estado.
We asked for an interview with the Vice President about Bolivia's deforestation crisis, but haven't received a response. One politician from the governing party, the MAS, the Movimiento al Socialismo, did agree to speak to us.
¿Cuál es el objetivo de las leyes de la madre tierra?
El objetivo principal es reservar primero nuestros bosques aún todavía que tenemos en nuestro país.
¿Cree que esto se está cumpliendo o es que no se está cumpliendo?
Yo creo que este no se está cumpliendo el 100%, especialmente en los empresarios privados que tenemos en la región de Santa Cruz, que obviamente no cumplen esa normativa. No, los empresarios privados no cumplen, pero sí los que somos de los pequeños productores que tenemos de 30, 20 hectáreas, no cumplimos con toda total normalidad.
Entonces hay que repensar la agenda patriótica, hay que repensar esta expansión de la frontera agrícola.
Por supuesto, es lo que se tiene que plantear, ¿no? Imagínense, con todo este cambio climático que está afectando a su país, hay que replantear.
¿Tú calificarías esto como un ecocidio?
Sí, no, definitivamente. De 2019 a 2024 es todo un ciclo. Premeditada acción humana ecocida.
como para desarrollar mecanismos que, independientemente, por ejemplo, de una ley de madre tierra o de una política que estimule el manejo y la conservación de los recursos naturales, prácticamente en la práctica se está haciendo todo lo contrario.
Estamos al borde del precipicio. No es posible dar marcha atrás, no es posible retroceder en lo que hemos hecho. Pero si seguimos recto, caemos a ese precipicio. Entonces, estamos obligados a cambiar de rumbo si queremos sobrevivir. Esa es la verdad.
Álvaro, David, thank you very much for being with us. That has been a very strong documentary showing a really sad and huge, terrible reality that Bolivia is living, like many other countries in the Amazon, but Bolivia has been hit really hard, especially last year, from what we are seeing, and the numbers is showing that. With that, I want to thank you, both of you, and give you now the floor so you can comment a little bit on this documentary. How was it done? What was your feelings after producing that and all what you have seen? David, Álvaro, go ahead. Thank you.
I think I'll go first. Is that okay, David? Well, first of all, thank you very much to all the people that are watching the webinar. Thanks to the Anglo-Bolivian Society for organizing this event. We are very happy to be here today with you. Why? Well, that's a good question, and the reason with the answer, I think it would be why not. Bolivia has been coming up as one of the top countries with the highest rates of deforestation for at least the last decade. In the last couple of years, it's been on the top 5. Since 2019, has been on the top 2, and the big difference that exists between Bolivia and many other countries is that, contrary to other countries making policies to stop the rates of deforestation, Bolivia has been promoting, has had a clear state-driven policy to increase the agricultural frontier, has had a clear policy to expand and to and cut our trees and increase the deforestation, and that's one of the main reasons that we needed to understand, and we needed to explain, and that's something very very shocking. I think Winston at the beginning was saying 1.3 million. No, it's almost 13 million of hectares that have been lost in 2024. At the moment, I'm in Ireland. The whole just to make a comparison, the whole of the island is 10 million hectares. It's even more than the whole island of Ireland. The amount of deforestation that has been lost in Bolivia in 2024. I also would like to mention a previous research that I did with David. This was for another organization, and we were trying to understand what are the dynamics, and it was very important to point out and to single out the Mennonite community, because it's very difficult to
to find a group of people that are very easy to single out and to acknowledge the type of work they are doing. And we have to understand that the way these communities produce is completely different to what the campesinado usually produces. As you saw in the documentary, the machinery they use is absolutely modern. The methods is very technological. They live in very classical ways, or very orthodox ways, if you could wanna call it. But the way they produce, they use the latest of technology, and this is very important. And another thing I would like to take the opportunity is to talk about where we are at the moment. As many people would know, we have the second round of elections in the next coming days, and very little has been heard about the proposals for the next government. As soon as the first election happened, many of the elected representatives went and met the CAO, the agricultural organization in Santa Cruz, to secure their support and how can they help them. And in the contrary, it should be the other way, to say, okay, guys, the agricultural industry is not giving anything back to the country, and is deforesting at rates that are inconceivable. And on the contrary, they went and they gave their support. Unfortunately, I think it's one of the things that Bolivia will need to work. Fortunately, we have been able to make some good contacts with some parliamentarians, like Cecilia Requena, for example, that she has presented a new project, a new bill to sustain and to stop the burning of the forest gradually, and to be more friendly with the environment, and to produce more organically and more environmentally friendly as well. This is very important for us, and I think it's also very important to keep the pausa ambiental that was the result of the 2024 ecocide that happened, because we need to know what has been the cost of all of this to the environment. As we saw, there were many people saying, "Oh, the amount of animals that have been lost." Yes, we know how many hectares of forests have been lost, but we still don't know what's been the impact on the fauna, and especially also let's not forget about the communities have been affected. Another piece of news that came out today is that Bolivia has increased 383% the CO2 emissions coming from Bolivia. I mean, this is people respiring carbon dioxide all the time. I mean, there is an impact on all of these communities. We're not going to talk about the mining industry. We're just going to talk about the deforestation. But there's also many things that are happening in our forests that are affecting communities and will be affecting communities in the coming future. Yeah, I think that would be my part. David, maybe you want to talk a bit more.
I'll add something. Thank you, Alvaro, and thank you also to the Anglo-Bolivian Society for making this happen, particularly Alberto and Winston. And thank you to everybody for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting. I think just two things to add to what Alvaro has said there. I think one, in terms of why Gecko Project decided to make it, it's important to highlight the role of the director and co-founder of Gecko, Tom Johnson. It was really Tom who conceived the idea for the film. he had seen the work that Alvaro and I had done for Global Witness, which was also on Bolivia and Mennonites and soy and Cargill. That was a report that was published in September 2023. He was aware of that, and he'd been tracking just how high deforestation rates are in Bolivia. And he was also interested in the role that the Mennonites, obviously a comparatively small number of people population-wise, were playing in that deforestation. And so he was very keen to draw attention to that. And then the other key point is this idea that what's been happening in Bolivia, for whatever reason, seems to be ignored by mainstream media or other media, by foundations, funders, and by NGOs as well. There are obviously less organizations working on this issue than in other countries like Peru or Colombia or Ecuador or Brazil, obviously. And so the main idea behind the film, as I understand it, was to draw attention to change that, to draw attention to what's been happening. And we hope that it's going some way to doing that.
Thank you very much to both of you. I'm going to open the floor now to Q&A, so you can reply. I know, David, that you have some limited time, but there is still some time for you, and you, Alvaro. I will remind all our audience that you can use the Q&A to send your questions, and I will read it, or you can raise your hand and I will open the mic for you. With that having said, I have already Marcela, who is raising her hand, Marcela Montes. So, Marcela, I'm open the mic to you, so you can talk now.
First of all, I am very moved, and all I can say is thank you very much for all the careful study and this film, who is so important. My greatest thanks to you both. It's been so moving and important, and I hope you are able to get this subject to the attention of the new government that will start in November. I wish you thanks. I know that the Anglo-Bolivian Society usually keeps this as a video, and so we can share it. I'm sure, Alberto, you are going to do that as usual. So I think we all that are here today should try to share this film and this important work to everybody. So my greatest thank to you both.
Thank you, Marcela.
Thank you very much, Marcela. I really appreciate your comments, Marcela. Obviously, just to clarify a little bit, yes, definitely we are going to share this conversation that we have on our website, so you can follow it. But also, the documentary is already on YouTube, David and Alvaro. Is that right? So while we are going to upload this to our website, we are going to put also the link to the YouTube documentaries, so whoever they're going to look at it. I have now this is a comment, actually, more than a question, from Lucas Isaac Gonzalez, but probably it's going to be an interest of both of you. It says, congratulations, you did an amazing work. It is important to have visual evidence to have a sense of what is happening in Bolivia. I am a CONICET researcher from Argentina. I find empirical evidence correlating the expansion of soybean production and changes in the international price of soybeans and wildfires. This affects particularly the Argentine Chaco region. I also correlate the composition of provincial cabinets and wildfires. When concentrated economic sectors, agribusiness, cattle raisers, real estate, forestry, occupy positions in provincial cabinets, wildfires tend to augment. The relationship is statistically significant with data from 2001 to 2023. I would love to share my research and talk to you about your wonderful work and perhaps discuss possible collaborations. So I have the email of Lucas, if he allowed. Obviously, I'm going to share with you so you can be in contact with them. I have then a question from Erika Tolo. She says, thank you so much for this excellent and important work. It is very upsetting but crucial to understand what's going on. What can we do as citizens?
Well, I think it's very important to keep pressuring the government and be more vocal and help this type of documentaries have a bit more of attention. I mean, we've been able to do some campaigning in Bolivia over the last couple of months, showing this documentary in a few places. But what we need is more attention and more pressure, and this is very important, because this is an issue that is very important for young people. Is young people that have gone out to the streets and have protests on these issues. And let's not forget that on Sunday, the big majority of people voting are going to be young people, and these politicians should be addressing these concerns for their electorate, and it should be very important for all politicians involved, and the reform should be coming quickly as well. Any Bolivia is in a crossroads at the moment with the economic crisis, and to think about that, the agricultural industry is the way we're going to solve our problems. Is not real. Is a bad dream. Many people think, oh, that's the solution to all our problems. Is not. What the agriculture industry leaves for the country is very little. Let's not forget how much tax the agriculture industry has to pay for exports. It's absolutely minimal, or just not to say absolutely nothing is very close to zero. So keeping pressure on politicians is very important, and keeping active an active society is also very important.
I think Erika also is trying to specify a little bit the question. It says, what can we do also as citizens in the UK, Europe? Probably it's something that David can address as well.
I think there is obviously an international dimension too. So in addition to pressuring the Bolivian government, we can be pressuring governments in the UK and in the EU as well, and also the US and the China. So we don't really go into it in the film, the supply chain aspect of it and where the soy and beef are going. But it is important for governments in these other countries where a lot of the products end up to bring in legislation that forbids the commercialization of products that are being produced as a result of deforestation. And that's something that the EU is most advanced with its EUDR, which hasn't come in yet and has been now postponed twice, but is in the offing, let's say. The UK has a piece of legislation in progress as well, as does the US, although they're both weaker than the EU version of it. With regards to what's going on in China, I'm not sure, but as I understand it, a huge percentage of the beef that's exported from Bolivia goes to the Chinese market. And that's received a big boost since the 2019 trade deal was signed. So it's also important to look at other governments as well and pressure them to bring in this kind of legislation, as well as in the meantime pressure the corporations themselves and the banks and other financial institutions that fund or lend money to these corporations. Obviously, the film talks about Cargill. They've been making voluntary commitments to end deforestation in their supply chain for years and years and keep pushing the date back. It's important also to try and hold those companies accountable, pressuring them.
Thank you, David. I have Nick Possinger, who is asking and raising his hand to do a question. So, Nick, you have the mic.
Yes, hopefully you can hear me. A terrific documentary. It was really powerful. I wanted to ask about, obviously there's legislation and things going through the EU, and I'm aware of stuff that's happened in places like Indonesia, but probably closer to Bolivia is what's the legislation changes that have taken place to try and combat illegal deforestation in Brazil. And I know that they're using satellites to do sort of real-time tracking. I have been for quite a while. I don't know if is Bolivia doing anything like that, or is it just simply not the resources in place to be able to do that kind of stuff, to try and track it in real time and get there quicker to then be able to introduce sort of criminal charges to people that are doing this and make it more of a deterrent culture?
Well, the problem with that is that burn the forest illegally. The fines exist. The problem is that the institutions that are called to have them punished are not doing their jobs. In June in Bolivia we have a festivity that on the 24th of June is the solstice of winter, and that's when the burnings start. In cities is already forbidden to burn things as it used to happen in the past, and the fine for that is like 3,000 or something Bolivianos as a fine. But if you burn in the forest, the fines are like 200 Bolivianos, and not even that is being prosecuted. The agencies that are called to prosecute people and give these fines are not doing their jobs. There's as many people would know, there's a lack of institutionality in Bolivia. Institutions are not doing their job, and this is something that the new government has to work really hard on, and because you can see the effects on the effects on the forest as you've seen.
Thanks, Álvaro. I have also Rosalind Howard, who is asking to do a question. So, Rosalind, you have the mic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Winston and Alberto for organizing this, and to Álvaro and David for doing this amazing job, bringing this terrible tragedy to a wider audience's attention. I was in Bolivia both in 2019 and in 2024 in Cochabamba, and I saw the students out on the streets demonstrating, trying to get the government to do something about it, about this absolutely devastating, these terrible fires that were killing so many animals, as well as, of course, affecting the health and the livelihoods of many communities. I was very struck by your interviewing tactics. I'm a bit of an anthropologist. And so when you were talking to the Mennonite people, I was really struck by the tact and I guess you must have held back a lot of things that you were thinking when you were talking to them, because it was a very gentle approach, which nonetheless was effective, because you got them to talk about their real experience without any apparent sense of defending themselves, which I thought was really quite good, because it leaves us to kind of judge for ourselves what's going on. But what I just want to have a specific question in the sense that, did you ever ask them how they kind of, what's the word, how they kind of can justify the fact that they live in a very traditional lifestyle with no technology in their personal lives, and yet at the same time they use the ultimate agricultural technology for cutting down the forest? How does that work? That's my question and my comment. Thank you.
Alvaro, shall I start with a quick thought? I think we did often ask that. We did ask that several times to the Mennonites we interviewed, and of course we interviewed a lot more than appear in the film, and it was hard to get a coherent response, I think, that would have made sense in a film. At some point, Alvaro is asking one interviewee about why it is you can use, or they can use, tractors, but not mobile phones, for example. But it was hard to get a coherent response, as I say, possibly because they might not have understood what we were getting at. We did also sometimes ask questions about deforestation, using that word, and climate change as well. But again, didn't get any kind of coherent responses. So there was some material. We did try and get at some of that, but in the end, we didn't really think it was usable. I think just coming back to your comment about our interviewing technique, that makes you smile a little bit, because actually the way some of it's been cut makes, at least I feel, it makes me sound more aggressive actually than I think I was on the day. I think partly because some of my questions in the film are kind of coming out very fast. I think actually on the day we were asking them more slowly than that. But we generally speaking, we found speaking to people in the colonies for people to be open. Only one or two people didn't want to talk to us, and only a couple who we mentioned in the film were okay with talking to us, but without the camera. So generally, we found the colonies very hospitable, very friendly. And partly we knew what we might find because we'd also spent 5 or 6 weeks in previous years visiting Mennonite colonies as part of our research for Global Witness. So we had an idea of what it would be like when we went in there. Alvaro, do you have anything else to add about this irony, this contradiction between using things like tractors, but not allowed using other things?
Well, not much. I think you said mostly everything. I think there was one occasion when we asked one guy in a modern colony what he knew about climate change, and he said, "Oh yes, we've been taught in San Jose de Chiquitos about climate change is really bad, and deforestation is a very bad thing for the planet." Yeah, but yet he was deforesting on a big scale in his Chaco. We also have to understand that was in a modern colony where Mennonites are allowed to go out and do other things. But most of the colonies in Bolivia, I'm gonna take the risk to say are classic Mennonites. And the relation with the outside world is very little. So if you were to say climate change or deforestation, the understanding is going to be very, very limited. And as David said, the response is not going to be completely understandable, to say.
Alvaro, if I could just Alvaro, if you could just comment on what you just said, because there are divisions within the Mennonite community. The younger people would like to have more connection with the urban centers with Santa Cruz, etc., and engage and have a different type of life compared to what is to what is offered in a traditional sense, you know. And so the disputes, and they're also, I made reference to this question of sexuality as well. They created problems as well within the Mennonite community, right? And I mentioned the book that had been published, that we presented today by the Fernando Montes Foundation. But the other, just one other point is this: what about the other stakeholders that the Mennonites have, with the banking sector, for example? No, who actually manages the funding and the financing and the collection of funds for the Mennonite community? What is the connection with the CAO and the Comité Pro Santa Cruz? What is the connection with the Cámara Americana de Comercio, with the American Chamber of Commerce? This is an American company, Cargill, after all. Do you have any information concerning that? Any thoughts concerning that?
Well, regarding Cargill, I mean, this is, as you might know, this is a global company. It's a conglomerate around the world. Their influence is so big that at some point someone said that out of 3 pieces of food that we touch, out of 5 pieces of food we touch, 3 have been touched by Cargill. David mentioned it before. They can influence deforestation single-handedly. When we think about food, they have presence in 95% of the world. You think about the conflict in Ukraine with the grains. It was Cargill that was involved. So it is a big player, and they have lots of influence, and they have lots of influence in Bolivia as well, both with the CAO, both with Banco Ganadero, all of these capitals that are being moved in Bolivia. They have lots of influence. David mentioned the research we did for Global Witness, and we revised all the documentation, where the company is coming from, where they originated, and we saw some of the loans and how the loans are going into the banking system in Bolivia and are coming out on the same way. So it's a vicious circle that is happening in Santa Cruz, and this is very shocking, and the effects of all of this are really perverse for the environment in Bolivia and for indigenous communities and the environment itself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alvaro. That was really detailed. I have a couple of questions from myself as well, but I would go with our audience mostly to be good with them. I have Christopher Wright, who is a journalist in France, and he says, very informative. I noticed David mentions China there in passing. To what degree, if any, are countries such as China actually leaning on the Bolivian on the Bolivians economically in situ in this respect? I have heard reports of that, notably from Bolivian contacts. I have family there. Thank you. I don't know if you have any info about that.
I'm not sure I could answer that, Alvaro.
I'm not sure if I understand well. The question is, what is the participation of Chinese capitals in the soy business?
Yeah, it's basically to what degree Chinese is actually influencing the local communities.
Well, I think it cut off. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, yes.
I think it's very little in the soy industry, because most of the soy that comes out from Bolivia is staying within the region. But what I can say is that the role in deforestation is increasing, and it's increasing alarmingly, because, as you know, Bolivia has signed an agreement with China to export beef. So many of the chacos that used to be used for soy production are now turning into grazing grounds, because they are seeing this as more profitable, and the amount of beef that is exported to China is increasing also. also maybe not strictly related to soy, but we also know that the effects of the gold industry in the mining sector. We know that deep in the Amazon, north of La Paz, the amount of work they've been doing is very bad. The use of mercury, how is this affecting indigenous communities? How is it going to affect next generations? The amount of mercury that has been used is absolutely outrageous, and is going to affect these indigenous communities. I think if someone can tolerate a 4% of mercury in their bodies, these communities have over 70%. I don't have the exact number, but and this is going to affect them very bad. So yes, China has a participation. I don't know specifically on the soy industry, because as I said, it goes to other countries within the region. But yes, in beef and other things, yes, is very bad.
Thank you, Alvaro. With that on note, I know that we are against time. I know that David has another commitment that has to go. So I want to thank you both for being here with us tonight. And I really appreciate all your input and information that has been provided. And congratulations for your documentary. It's really, I would not be shy on that. It's a piece of art in terms of information. So congratulations. I would like to give you both just a little space for your final words, and then give the floor to Winston to close this webinar.
I'll just shout out for Leo, who is the actual filmmaker, who it was him pointing the camera at us, often in extreme heat. So I think it's very important to flag his role up in making the film, and also to Lynn from the Gecko Project as well for promoting it. But more than anything, just to say thank you very much to everybody for taking the interest, and to ask you to share the film with anyone that you think might be interested in it, and to spread the word about what's been going on in Bolivia.
Alvaro?
Well, very little much to say. Yes, we're very thankful to the Gecko Project. Bolivia is a huge country, but with a very tiny presence in international media, and most of the attention goes to other countries for the Amazon region. And it's important, this type of work that portrays the importance of what we have, and the responsibility we carry, not only to other Bolivians, to the world, because we have one of the pulmones del mundo, and this is very important. And thank you again to the Anglo-Bolivian Society, and Alberto, Winston, thank you so much.
Thanks to both of you. And now I will give the floor to Winston so we can close this webinar. Thank you. You're in mute.
Thank you very much, David and Alvaro. Been fantastic. This is a masterpiece that you've presented. It follows a trend that we've had, the presentations that we've had before. We've had a presentation, an interview with a wild parque, for example, who've been threatened to death, and other instances. So it's within that sequence, and it's very important that you've given this presentation. I think the follow-up is very important. The connections this has, like I said, with the banking sector, and what was going to happen after the election, with, for example, if a ley de exvinculación is going to be introduced, and this will affect communities, right? The other thing that I also want to mention is the connection that we have, and in the Chiquitania with the Grupo Nómadas, that has publications, that has videos as well, and it all fits in with that. But I'd like to thank you once again for your excellent presentation, and we hope to remain in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody. And as always, we say this is going to be on our website. And any questions, please, you can contact us through our Facebook page, Anglo-Bolivian Society, or you can send us a message using our email, anglobolivian@gmail.com. All the information is going to be on our website, and well, we are open to any comments of you. Thank you very much, and have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.